It's the Rocketfellers, number 5. Not the dog! Do not hurt that dog, comic book. Have you no heart? Have you no shame? Yes, I know that an elderly woman literally drowned/froze to death in the very first issue and nobody made a fuss, but this is a dog! I'm kidding, folks. The dog is just fine. In this issue, and I'm not even kidding, he actually kicks somebody in the nuts, so the dog can probably fend for itself better than you or I could. This might actually be my favorite cover that our one-man show on art, Francis Manipool, has turned in for the Rocketfellers. I love the concept with the weapons surrounding the dog, and the dog's got a great expression on its face, just a So we're introduced to some new bad guys in this issue, and they have their henchmen break into the Rockefeller home, but the family isn't there. The dog is, though, and Rex is the dog's name, fends off the bad guys in his dog/cyborg hybrid sort of way. It's very, like, hijinky, family comedy, that kind of feel. Does Rex need an origin story? Like, do we need to find out how and why he's a cybernetically enhanced dog who can cook breakfast, drive, and fight off bad guys? I don't know, it's kind of one of those things I'm content to just let be for now. Maybe down the line, though. The plot definitely thickens in this issue as far as Chronicles, our villain, is concerned. We find out that there's a certain way she's connected to the other characters that ups the intrigue hugely and opens up a new emotional dimension for the Rocketfellers. So I'm very curious to see where that goes. The Power Company Recharged is a one-shot about a group of black superheroes fighting to prevent metahumans, superpowered people, from being unfairly targeted by not just villains, but society at large. I'll also mention that this book primarily takes place in the Deep South and was worked on by mostly black creators. No subtext detected here. So some of you might recall when I talked about Black Lightning number 1 several months ago, I basically pitched the idea of an all-black branch of the Justice League to tackle, I guess for lack of a better term, issues that the black community face in the world. Little did I know at the time that DC was about to start releasing these Power Company one-shots. The Power Company is an old team that I guess is being repurposed and revitalized for a new era. The first one-shot came out in January, and then now we have this one here. They're not, strictly speaking, a branch of the Justice League, I don't think, and I guess they're not, in name, tackling black issues, but it's a team of black superheroes, so it's in the vein of what I was looking for. I don't know, maybe it's weird for me, a white dude, to be looking for an all-black superhero team, but I just know that I work with the general public in my Joe job, and I see a lot of brown kids wearing Miles Morales gear, Spider-Man gear. And since I've had children, I've just been of the mindset that representation really matters. So I just think it would be cool. Part of me does kind of wish that they would drop the whole metahuman subtext here and just kind of come out and say, hey, this is a book about black characters, by black creators, largely, and we're going to talk about black issues. But you know what? For now, I'm happy that we're getting what we're getting. And you know what? Maybe that more direct stuff is something they get to down the line. The plot that we're working with here is sort of a general team comes together type plot. We've got Josiah Power, who's like the leader slash funder person. And then we have Vixen, Black Lightning, the Jace Fox version of Batman, and the Signal. My only real complaint here is that if they continue to give us Power Company content, which I hope they do, we need another female presence in here consistently. Power Company, more like Sausage Party, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you could do Naomi, you could do one of the black female Green Lanterns, that's a possibility. Black Lightning has 2 daughters, Thunder and Lightning, that might be an interesting dynamic. Could Billy, the original Blue Ranger from the Power Rangers franchise, have fathered a child with an alien? See, we ask the hard-hitting questions here at Comic Book Chronicles. I don't know the answer, but we kinda sorta get a hint in Power Rangers Prime number 6. So yeah, one of the ways that they wrote the Billy character off of Power Rangers almost 30 years ago was to say that he went to another planet to be with an alien chick, Cestria. And in my little fanficky fantasy brain, I always kind of figured that they couldn't have a child together because they're different species. Cestria is an Equation, which means she's like a hybrid fish-human lady, and of course Billy's a regular human. But in this Power Rangers Prime series, the Blue Ranger character, Mark, is half human and half Equation, so I guess theoretically it is possible? And granted, this is all made-up comic book science stuff anyway, but yeah, I don't know. The fact that this character is half human and half Equation opened up a door in my creative brain that was not open before. We've been learning a lot about Mark in this series via flashbacks, and of course this issue is largely dedicated to him as he's being held captive by the VR troopers and like the oppressive Eltarian government. I guess my only tip/complaint would be, let's use that flashback tool to learn about the other Rangers too. I mean, Mark is easily the most developed Ranger we have at this point, so let's spread the love out a little bit. And I know I've said this a bunch of times, but I really can't say enough good things about the variant cover game for this series. For instance, Bon Bernardo has one on this issue. He's always amazing. And then we've got a Lightspeed Rescue variant cover too. Incidentally, folks, the other night I recorded an interview with a man named Joshua Moore, whose book on the history of the Power Rangers franchise, More Phenomenal, is available for order now. It comes out this month, so I highly encourage you to check out that book. Captain Planet, he's a hero, gonna take pollution down to 0. I've had the theme song from that damn 90s cartoon stuck in my head for 30 years. I can't get it out. Some people have Beatles or Eagles songs engraved in their brain. I have the Captain Planet theme song. And now that I've read Captain Planet #1 and sort of reintegrated myself into the Captain Planet universe, it's probably going to be there for another 30 years, so thanks, comic book. So yeah, Captain Planet and the Planeteers was an early 90s cartoon show about saving the planet and saving the environment and stuff. You had 5 teenage Planeteers, each of which had like a magical ring or something, each of which corresponded to an element, and when they put their rings together, they could summon the superhero Captain Planet. It wasn't a pop cultural phenomenon per se, but it was popular enough that people remember it, and I guess popular enough to warrant this comic book reboot from Dynamite Entertainment. So in this issue, Gaia, the High Priestess of Earth, is in trouble from some bad guys, and she summons Captain Planet, who in turn distributes the rings to the various Planeteers. It's basically like the first act of the first episode of a cartoon show. We find out who our heroes and good guys are, what the dilemma is, a little bit about who the bad guys are. I don't really have any complaints about what we get here. I mean, from a writing standpoint, I think they could tell some interesting stories. I mean, the theme, the message of Captain Planet is as relevant now, if not much more, than it was 30 years ago. So, I mean, it still works. Artistically, things look great too. The colors pop, the action is dynamic. Interestingly enough, they gave Captain Planet a DILF beard for this book. DILF, of course, being Dad I'd like to fornicate with. Why they did that, I don't know, but it's interesting, I guess. Lots of great variant covers for this issue, including one by Jay Lee and June Chung. It's a little surreal, though, to see Jay Lee draw Captain Planet with his like pseudo-gothic style, or at least that's how I interpret it. It works though, especially because the colors pop. This version of Captain Planet that he draws looks brighter than the Superman that he drew many years ago. But yeah, I would come back for more here. I mean, I think fans of the show will be pleased. I was. By the way, did you guys know there's a Captain Planet Foundation? Like, to this day? It's a 501k charitable organization that does, like, environmental charity work. I think I knew that some kind of Captain Planet charity organization was around back in the day, but for it to still exist in any incarnation in 2025 is really cool. Check them out at CaptainPlanetFoundation.org. Who is the first classic Superman villain to have a meaningful role in Absolute Superman? It's this guy. Yeah, the guy with the green skin, the pink leotard, and the matching boots. I know I'm intimidated. Or at least a little unsettled. I kid, of course. Yes, it's Brainiac, the evil alien villain who destroys planets, but not before stealing a city from said planets, shrinking it down, and then keeping it in a jar in his home base. He gets the spotlight in Absolute Superman number 7. So yeah, Brainiac started off in Superman comic books as kind of a mad scientist alien type character. But then, I think about 15 to 20 years ago, DC realized that if they darken this character up a little bit and make him like grim and cold, he can actually be really foreboding and scary. But in Absolute Superman number 7, we take that dark side of the Brainiac character and really push it, I think, about as far as you can go with it. Maybe even a little too far in certain places. Like, the Brainiac we see here is more than just a world destroyer. He's also kind of a psychopathic torturer slash serial killer in a cosmic sense. There's a few moments early in the issue that kind of push the envelope into silly territory. Carmine DiGiandomenico is once again our penciler here. And, you know, last issue he sort of proved his versatility, at least to me, by showing that he could draw a more cosmic Superman-type story. This issue is more in line with what we saw from him in, I think, the Joker stories that we saw him do. Much darker and more sadistic. We don't see Superman himself in this issue, but obviously we do establish a very formidable opponent for him to go up against. It looks like trouble is coming to Earth. I've got a bone to pick with Geiger number 14. And while admittedly it is to a lesser degree, it is more or less the same issue that I had with Godzilla vs. Hulk last month. Last month, Marvel put out a Godzilla vs. Hulk one-shot, and based on the title and the visual language of the cover, I don't think I was out of line in expecting to see a fight between Godzilla and the Hulk. That's not what we got, though. The book has its share of bright spots, I'll grant you that, but I ultimately came down pretty hard on it for not delivering on what it promised to readers, a fight between Godzilla and the Hulk. Similarly, coming into Geiger number 14, I was expecting a fight between Tariq Geiger and Ash Arden, a man and a woman, each of whom have radioactive powers. And I expected that not just based on where we left off in Geiger number 13 and the visual language of this cover to Geiger number 14, but the specific teaser that they used at the end of issue 13. The glowing man versus the glowing woman. And then last issue there was also a teaser page for this issue that was styled like an old school boxing match poster. They were clearly going for the feel and the vibe of a fight between Geiger and Ash. So, did we get the fight we were promised? In Godzilla vs. Hulk, the answer was no. In Geiger number 14, the answer is Kind of. Granted, we do get to see Ash fight with some troops in this issue that are attacking her, but as far as the actual fight with Tariq is concerned, we get like a page of them jumping at each other, as the cover indicates, and then a couple panels of them slapping each other with their boron rods, and that's about it. It's all beautifully drawn and colored by Gary Frank and Brad Anderson, mind you. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that what we get here is more verbal than physical. It's more like a confrontation than a back and forth fight. The confrontation and the issue at large, really, are much more character driven, and normally that's the better way to go about things. It's just that they advertised a fight, and I was looking for a fight. Does no one want to fight anymore in comic books? Like, I feel like I've been asking for this all year. So yeah, I'm not as offended as I was over Godzilla vs. Hulk, but I was let down by what we got from the confrontation from Tariq and Ash. On the upside, I'll reiterate that I love Gary Frank's work. He's especially good in this issue at giving Ash Arden the crazy eyes. Gentlemen, if you see that look from a lady coming in your direction, be wary. Exquisite Corpses, #1, actually has minimal corpses in it, and they're kind of just okay looking. They're not really exquisite. This comic book lied to me. I want my money back. I'm kidding, folks. I'm kidding. This issue is actually quite good. Dense, but good. So this is the latest from Image Comics and Tiny Onion. Tiny Onion being James Tynion IV's production company. The same James Tynion IV that was just nominated for an Eisner Award for The Deviant. So I figured naturally this was worth a look, at least. Our premise here is a little bit like The Hunger Games meets The Purge, in my estimation. In this book, we've got 13 of the wealthiest families in the world, each family corresponding to one of the original 13 colonies of the United States of America. And every 5 years on Halloween, they have a competition where they all pick a assassin or murderer type character to enter a competition, and they all try to kill each other within the bounds of a small town in America somewhere. Naturally, riches and glory go to the winner, but there's a lot of blood in the crosshairs here. This is probably the biggest tee-up issue that I've ever seen. Literally the biggest tee-up issue. It's about 60 pages. And when I say tee-up issue, I mean it sets the ball on the figurative tee. It sets all the elements and characters in place so that the story can really get going with the second issue. And it's a good thing we have 60 pages here because there's a lot of exposition and character stuff to set up. Not only do we have our various assassins and killers, but we've got the various factions. We've got civilians that are going to be caught in the crosshairs, the crossfire, etc. We have our main character, of course. There's just a lot to accomplish with this first issue. Not a lot of action and bloodshed in this issue, though, to kind of establish what the tangible stakes are. We do have a little moment during the issue, but you kind of have to swim through a lot of information and exposition to get there. So I kind of wonder if creatively it would have been a better move to put that bloody, murderous moment at the very beginning of the issue, and then spend the rest of it kind of establishing, okay, this is what's going on here. There is a lot of foreboding intrigue once we reach the end of the issue, so it builds up and it accomplishes, I think, what it wants to accomplish. I can just see some people looking at this big issue and thinking, oh boy, this is a lot of text. Lots of fun personas and kind of gimmicks for the various killers and assassins in this book, though. And it even gives you like a grid to show you, okay, this is who's still around, this is who is gone. It's fun. So given the talent of everybody involved here, not the least of which being Tynion himself, Exquisite Corpses is definitely going to be one to watch. It's Absolute Flash number 3, and the monkey's gone rogue! The monkey's gone rogue! Oh god, what do we do? Yeah, someone says that in this issue. The monkey's gone rogue. I don't give out a Line of the Week award, but if I did, it would go to that line, even at this early juncture in the new comic book week. So in this issue, the Rogues continue to pursue Wally West, who again is 15 years old and has just gotten his super speed powers. They deploy a special agent of sorts, a monkey named Grodd. So you might know that in the main DC universe, Gorilla Grodd is a super brilliant supervillain who also comes from a race of talking gorillas. As we saw at the end of last issue and further in this issue, the Grodd of the Absolute Universe is a little blue telepathic monkey who we see bonds with Wally here, and I guess is going to serve as like a companion of sorts for him. That's a really cool idea, and it's executed really well here. You know, I'm starting to wonder if enough superheroes have animal sidekicks. We know nowadays, of course, that Superman has a dog and Sam Wilson has a bird, but apparently now the Flash has a little blue monkey. Our artistic team here continues to handle like the super speed effects really well. Case in point, we get an awesome 2-page spread early on here that's beautifully laid out and the colors really pop. It's still not clear whether the Flash, Wally West, is clinically anxious in this book, but he's clearly dealing with anxiety at the moment either way, and that should definitely resonate with a lot of readers, so that's cool. When I read the first issue of Absolute Flash a couple months ago, I said that it was a wait-and-see book, meaning that I was kind of reserving judgment on it until I read a few more issues. Now that we're 3 issues deep, I'll definitely say that I'm glad I did stick around. This book is ramping up in terms of intrigue and quality, and that's a great thing to see. The author, who for many years was basically Mr. Spider-Man at Marvel, is now taking a shot at being Mr. Superman at DC. And not for nothing, he comes out of the gate really, really strong. Super strong, you might say. This is Superman Unlimited number 1. So yeah, Superman Unlimited number 1 is probably the flagship book of DC's Summer of Superman initiative that aligns with the new Superman movie coming out in July. Given those elements and the fact that this book is written by Dan Slott, a really high-profile, well-known author who really proved himself at Marvel to be one of the best Spider-Man authors of all time, and DC really wants you to take a look at this book. So I'm keen to oblige them. This book, which, by the way, is drawn by Rafael Albuquerque and colored by Marcelo Maiolo, basically gives you a taste of what the current status quo is for the canonical Superman, and also gives you a glimpse at what the canonical history is, and a threat naturally emerges that Superman has to step up and face. What this issue established for me as much as anything else is the reassuring fact that Dan Slott seems to get Superman. Like, he understands who the character is, what this thing is, what it's supposed to be. For a long time, there were a bunch of creators who worked on Superman in both film and comics who just seemed to either flat out not get the character, or if they did get the character, it wasn't evident in their work. These days, the opposite seems to be true, though. Not just with Dan Slott here, but across the board. For instance, in this issue, we see Superman not just save a lot of people, but we see how kind he is. Like, there's a page where Superman just pays a compliment to a young lady who's playing guitar in the park that I really loved. For years, there's been so much talk about how we need a Superman that inspires people. To me, that's a Superman that can inspire you, or at least it inspires me. The Daily Planet also has a new status quo of its own, with a new funder slash money person at the helm who's trying to fight misinformation in the world. Like she says that that's one of the world's greatest threats at the moment, misinformation. I can really be down with that, respect that, not only as a concerned citizen, but as a former journalist myself. There's also a really tremendous line in here that Clark says to Lois at one point, "You're Lois Lane, you can do anything." That's such a great, like, in a nutshell summation of how Superman views Lois Lane. It's beautiful. I know I'm really emphasizing the writing here, but let's not downplay the art. Rafael Albuquerque and Marcelo Maiolo give us a beautiful presentation here, and if this is any indication, we can look forward to many months of beautiful Superman comics. Point blank, this was a home run. I really don't see how they could have done any better with this than they did. It's about as good a jumping on point for a canonical Superman comic as I've ever seen. So if you're looking to buy into Superman comics in anticipation of the new movie, this is your entry point right here. I can only hope that James Gunn, the director of the upcoming Superman movie, does as well as this team did here. I might be projecting a little too much meaning onto the cover of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker number 4. But you know what, in this case I'm actually okay with that. I mentioned this when I covered the previous issue, but this issue has just a gorgeous cover by Phil Noto of Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, and Han Solo. And when I talked about that, I mentioned that it's cool to see them in their older eras together like this, because we never got to see them all on camera together during the sequel trilogy. But, you know, beyond that, as we're in the 48th anniversary month of the original Star Wars movie, this cover really makes me think not just of Leia, Luke, and Han, but of Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford, and what they gave to the world as the faces of this little movie that could, that, you know, wound up impacting millions of people. And not just that they were able to come back in the sequel movies and kind of be a part of it again after so many years, but you know, that they've been able to see the impact that Star Wars has had on people as the decades have gone on. It's a tremendous tribute to them. Again, maybe I'm injecting a little too much meaning here, but in this instance, I'm okay with that. Now, unfortunately, on the other end of the artistic spectrum in this issue, things get a little rough, which is kind of weird because the art up to this point has probably been the big drawing point, no pun intended, for this adaptation. Like, for instance, this shot of Rey looks weird, kind of off to me. And even more so, this shot of Ben Solo / Kylo Ren looks really weird. Like, I don't know how that wound up in the issue at all. Now, you can make the argument, well, that's kind of how the actor Adam Driver looked in that scene. But this is a comic book. It's not a movie. You know, we're not bound by the rules of reality here. So this is an instance where I would have maybe encouraged the artist to use a little bit of creative license to spruce things up and make him look a little bit better, so to speak. Certainly not make him look like whatever this looks like. I would hope that when they do the trade paperback, like the collected edition for this story, that they allow the artist to go back and fix some of that stuff, because he is very good. I don't know if it was a deadlines bearing down on him thing or what it was, but he deserves the chance to go back and kind of spruce that up.